We have a statement from the Biden-Harris campaign. I love how they call it the Biden-Harris campaign because they have to do that because they expect Joe Biden to hand off power to Kamala Harris at some point.
She's still relevant.
Yep. The Biden-Harris campaign statement on today's... They keep saying it Biden-Harris. Isn't that funny, though? Like, we call it the Trump campaign. You call it the Clinton campaign.
Right.
You know, who did she have? Tim Kaine? Was that her running mate?
I see it's so irrelevant.
Exactly. We never brought it up. Anyway, here's the quote.
They also refer to it as the Biden-Harris
here,
administration.
Right, here's the quote. In New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. The threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. He is running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one and calling for our Constitution to be terminated so we can regain and keep power. A second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms, and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it this November. The fascinating thing is, the only way you believe this is if you don't pay attention. Anyone, like we saw with that gentleman, what was his name, Sean McGuire, I think, who's donating to the Trump campaign. He said he bought the Kool-Aid. He bought into it. He voted for Hillary Clinton. He believed what they said.
Same.
He started paying attention to what was going on and then realizing what they're saying doesn't make any sense, actually. These things are not true. Trump has never called for terminating the Constitution. That's a lie. That's just absolutely a lie. He never said he would be a dictator on day one. What was asked of him, I believe it was Hannity, said, will you be a dictator? It was only on day one so that I can say drill. And what was the other thing? Like secure the border or something.
Something like
that. Or I don't even think it was that. He says it was like an economic thing. He's asked if he'll be a dictator. He says only relating to drilling for oil or whatever the answer was. They stripped the context out. They lied and claimed that Donald Trump, this is Joe Biden, his whole campaign, his whole path, claimed that Donald Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people.
Yep.
Never happened. Not once. And in your instance, you know it better than anyone. They lied and claimed Donald Trump mocked a disabled reporter.
Yeah, but you're right. Joe Biden announced his run for president based on the lie about Charlottesville that he knew was a lie. And he knew a significant number of people in his base didn't know it was a lie and was completely willing to manipulate that. And here we are. All these years later, he's still manipulating every single lie. He's still going into the black community constantly, telling them that, you know, Donald Trump is out to get you. Donald Trump, oh, you think things are bad? They're going to get so much worse under Donald Trump. You said a second ago, a plague of evil on this country. I'm not a religious guy. I think a lot of people are going to start going back to church after what's going on right now. I mean, there is truly a force of evil that has overtaken our country right now.
Let's ask ChatGPT for all of those who may have stumbled upon this who don't know. I asked it right here. Did Donald Trump call Nazis very fine people? Let's see what it says. Maybe I'll get it wrong. No, Donald Trump did not explicitly call Nazis very fine people. He made a controversial statement during a press conference about the Charlottesville rally where he said there were very fine people on both sides, but he also condemned neo-Nazis and white nationalists in the same statement. Fascinating. For those of you that are just tuning in or not very into politics, how did you not know that? You're watching the news. They told you it was true. Is ChatGPT making this up? I just asked it right now in real time. Certainly, it must be an error in the programming. No, the reality is Trump never said it. In the same breath, Trump said there were people who just didn't want to see a statue torn down. Very fine people on both sides, including Antifa, including the people who wanted the statues. And he says, but not the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally. Yet here is the Biden administration once again lying about all of it.
I think this is another example of the Biden administration trying to redirect the American public's attention towards something that allows them to be on the attack, right? They can spend all day being like, well, Trump said this and he's so bad. And, you know, he said this was a witch hunt and it's definitely not, which questionable, but it makes the media about focusing on perceived wrongs from Donald Trump instead of having to hold Biden to account for the economy, hold Biden to account for the border, hold Biden to account for our declining birth rate and our terrible education system. Like anything that voters really, really care about is getting shunted to the side so that the both campaigns, Donald Trump's campaign has to, but the Biden campaign can focus on specifically attacking Donald Trump when actually he's the incumbent who has a terrible record right now. He should be the one having to defend all of this stuff. And instead, all of the media is like, no, we won't ask him any hard questions. We are just going to focus on our number one enemy at all times, Donald Trump.
Right. It's crazy because they're not really giving any like actual solutions to like, well, if it's not Donald Trump, who is it going to be on their side at least?
I'll just ask everybody listening right now, how's the economy going for you? Most people are not doing too well. Most people believe we are in a recession. They say, based on the math, we're not. But that's funny. I wonder why people think we are. Perhaps it's because the economy is not doing too well. Come November, you have a choice. The question is, who would you rather be in charge of the economy at its worst right now, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Most people have an obvious answer. The funny thing is, the first and second biggest issues, they go back and forth, immigration and the economy. According to Gallup, the single biggest issue, immigration. Economics as a whole, yeah, it's bigger, but that's just generic. The economy in general, as a question, 17% said the most important issue. 27% said immigration. Well, I tell you this, if those are the things you care about, Trump's the only guy. I mean, you're not going to pick Biden to lead the charge against those things, are you?
No, I don't think you
He
would.
created the problems.
Yeah. Brandon, do you think that these kind of kitchen table issues like the economy, like the border, like things that people talk about in their homes with their families are things that inspire people to leave the Democratic Party or to move from independent to more engaged in conservative issues?
I think so. I mean, I think that depending on what's happening culturally, there are different reasons. I mean, we had the biggest influx of people in 2020 that we ever had, and that was largely because of what BLM was doing and because of the COVID lockdowns. So different issues affect different people, differently, obviously. But like if you look right now, every sect of people are claiming economy, border. These are the things that are most important to them, except white women who care more about abortion than anything else. No other issue is more important to them than abortion. Now, these are the same people that are calling everybody else privileged and screaming at everybody how there's this privilege hierarchy that they don't get to enjoy. But I think to myself, how privileged do you have to be if you don't even care about the economy going to hell, if you don't care about our border going to hell, but the most important issue in your life is whether or not you can abort a baby?
Right.
That's
What
privilege.
is going on with liberal white women? I always wonder this.
That's privilege.
I think all of this is, again, part of the issue, right? Nobody can pay attention to everything, right? No one's going to have an opinion on everything. If you do, you probably are not in touch with some other aspect of your life. But there are certain issues that I think either you feel really strongly about because of personal experience, or you are repeatedly told this is your demographics issue, and if you don't talk about it all the time, then you are doing a disservice. So with women, I think this idea that, not letting women abort their babies is an attack on women's freedom and it's going to make us all go back to the kitchen and do whatever, like that is completely misrepresented and in fact is emotionally charged, right? It's playing on the guilt and the herd mentality that women tend to have to make them line up under a certain ideology, as opposed to encouraging them to critically look at their lives and say, what are the issues most affecting you? Oh, wait, it's very difficult to afford to be alive right now. Maybe you should put that above this concept of abortion, which most of you won't have to deal with ever.
Well, and I'll say, too, because the question you had for me is the kitchen table issues and things like that. Right now, I think more than any other group in America, there is a large awakening happening within the Black community. I think disproportionately, mostly this group. And if you look at why, it's a lot of Black men, but it's also mothers, Black mothers, who are seeing that their neighborhoods are now being invaded by illegal migrants. There is no safe place for their kids to go. The community centers, the YMCAs, the rec halls, the places where their kids could go, play basketball, engage in activities, stay off the street, stay out of gangs. They're filling these places now with illegal migrants. And the kids who live in the neighborhoods are being thrown back out on the streets again. People are starting to get it. And the Black community, who's been manipulated for so long, is now starting to see, too, they were just using us. And now that they have this new class of people that they're bringing in is obviously meant to be their new base they're going to replace the Black community with, people are waking up and they're getting it. And so I think when it hits home, when it hits their own communities and their own neighborhoods, that is absolutely something that's waking up a lot of people.
I think that's a big reason why there's a story, which actually we'll get to in a little bit, where they're claiming that Trump said a racial slur and the video that is somewhere, but no one's ever seen it. They've been hunting for it for years.
Right.
They are terrified that Trump's polls are actually improving among the black vote. When you look at the black vote, particularly 49 and under, it ranges from like 23 to 29%, depending on the poll. When you poll the black community 50 years and older, it's around 9%. So it's actually Trump's doing really well with younger people in the black community. When you average it all out, it's hard to tell how well he's actually doing. Some polls say he's up 20%. Some say 15%. We won't know for sure. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.